guys, Andrea Mills here. Today I'm going to give you answers to all those questions that you guys gave me earlier in the month. And it looks like I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different categories of questions. And depending on how long this ends up being, I might keep it all in one video or I might break this up into separate videos. So we'll just see how it goes. But I am going to save stuff about our family tree and things like that for a separate video probably next month, so that I can spend more time on that. And then the ones on babies and pregnancy and all that birth, I'm going to save for the month that I do all of my pregnancy videos. So right now I'm going to put on the screen what questions I'm answering. So if you want to skip forward to some spot in the video and just hear the part that you want to hear, you can find that easily. And I have this big fear. My camera, for whatever reason, has decided lately just to stop recording at random. So I'm hoping that that doesn't happen and I don't like get cut off. But if I do get cut off and I just put some words on the screen, you'll know what happened. I think I'll start here with this category was personal to myself and questions that you guys had for me as a person. So I will start with those ones. And you know what? I didn't actually look through these carefully to like formulate answers in my mind before I start talking. So hopefully I don't just ramble on. Someone wants to know if I do any knitting, crocheting, or loom knitting, like as a hobby or whatever. And I will say I've done all three of those things, but I'm not very good at any of them, so it's not something that I do really, but I have practiced and learned a little bit how to do those. Next is, what skirts do you wear and how do you stay warm in winter wearing skirts? I get most of my skirts from denimskirts.com. They usually have good sales like around holidays and things. So I like to try to hit one of those if I can. Sometimes I make my own skirts, and then sometimes I'll just shop on Amazon or wherever. But that's usually where I get them. And how do I stay warm in winter wearing skirts? The thing that I have learned, which we have some pretty harsh winters here. This is Wyoming, and we can get up over 100 in the summer. And in the winter, overnight, it can get like 30 below zero. We learned a few years ago when I was learning about heliotherapy. That's like using the sun for healing therapy. And there used to be a lot of hospitals that use heliotherapy. But one of the things that they did along with it was cool air treatment. And they would actually roll patients out onto these balconies so that they were in the sun. And it was a lot of times up in the mountains where the air was really cool. And just reading all that stuff, I thought we learned how good cold air is for your immune system. But we're always inside our house, you know, where it's hot. Even in the wintertime, our house tends to be pretty hot because there's just so many of us in this tiny little house. So what we started doing was purposely not bundling up so much for at least short trips outside. So if I'm going to run to the post office or the grocery store or something like that, or if we're just going to be outside for 5 or 10 minutes and it's not, you know, bitterly cold, then maybe we'll just wear a light jacket or no coat at all. I started wearing my flip-flops through the winter time, and unless we're going to go on a long walk or I'm going to be somewhere where the snow is really deep. But what we learned is that your body really adjusts fairly quickly. So it's the hardest, like right in the fall when the weather's starting to cool, because your body hasn't adjusted yet. But once it does, I can walk through, you know, a big slush puddle with my flip-flops on. And it's of course cold when I step in it, but my feet warm up so much faster than when I would walk through it with boots, especially if your socks get a little damp. It would be cold all day, but with my flip-flops, it takes like no time at all to warm up. So I guess my point is that you stay warm in winter by just not trying to stay so warm. A lot of people have asked us why we don't wear long sleeve shirts in the winter, and it's the same idea that if you don't, your body just adjusts to it and you don't actually need to. You actually feel warm and stay warm with your short sleeves on. So I literally wear my sleeveless shirts all winter long, and yeah, my bare feet basically, and I get accustomed to it and it's not a big deal. The next question is, why did you start YouTube And did you have a plan or intentions? And this person wants to start their own channel, but they're afraid they won't have anything to share. I think my biggest reason for starting YouTube was, you know, I live in a small town where I have homeschool friends, but none of them have a large family like I do. And large families are actually very common in our town. Our family is kind of a mid-sized family here, but none of them homeschool. They all go to public school, and I just felt like I didn't really have anybody that was just like me to relate to. And when I found, you know, I don't remember how I first came across YouTube. I think my mother-in-law recommended it for something that I was trying to figure out how to do. And I'm like, wow, there's this whole world on here that I didn't even know anything about. And so I've discovered some other large family homeschool channels. Jameril Stewart and Nikki, I don't know what her last name is, but A Farmhouse Full. Those are the first two I watched. And it was just so, such a comfort to me to have somebody that I could really relate to. And I felt like I wanted to give that to somebody else, to contribute to that. And also I knew I had a lot of different ways of seeing things, or different ideas than other people have, and I wanted to share those things with other people. Not that you have to think like I do or do what I do, but I know if it were me, my ideal person for my channel was me like 15 years ago. And since I do see the world a little differently in a lot of ways than other people, I would have liked to have had somebody that was more experienced that would come along and say, hey, have you thought about this or tried this? And so that was my main goal, was to contribute to that body of knowledge, things that are different maybe than what other people think or believe or do. My channel seems to have become a lot of vlogging lately, and originally that was not even my intention. I didn't intend to be a vlogger at all. In fact, the first time somebody asked me if I would do vlogs, I'm like, what the heck is a vlog? I literally had to look it up because I didn't know what that meant. But I'd watch vlogs, obviously. I just didn't know that's what they were called. I did from the beginning think I should do some, not like as much as I'm doing now, but mainly for the purpose of when I am learning from someone else, I like to know what kind of a person they are and kind of get a feel for who they are, so that it kind of gives me an idea of where they're coming from, maybe why they think what they think. And it influences, you know, a lot how I, what I think about their ideas, I guess. So to me it was important to have vlogs so that people could get to know us and decide if there's any merit to our methods or not. But that was not my intention. I didn't like set out to be a vlogger. That was just a means to develop relationships with people, I guess, so that you all could get to know us and what kind of people we were. So then the other ideas that I wanted to share, you would have some sort of a filter through which to evaluate those things. And as far as the being afraid you won't have anything to share, I totally get what you mean. Sometimes I think our life isn't that interesting, and like in my early vlogs especially, I think, oh, this is a Tuesday, what's going to happen on Tuesday that's going to be interesting? But somehow always there's just interesting things that happen, and just, I guess, partly it's just sharing your life. And once people get to know you and spend time with you, it's just like spending time with your friends. It doesn't matter if their life is that interesting or not. It's just comforting to spend time with them. And yeah, so I would say just go ahead and get started. And the thing is, when you first start, nobody's watching, so you can learn, like, you can learn all those skills of editing and things. Of course, now people go back and watch my early videos and say things, but anyways, you have time to figure stuff out, and you can always delete the early ones if they turn out really terribly. But do you have any favorite YouTubers to watch or recommend? I watch a huge variety of people, but I've only subscribed to a very few. So I'm subscribed to Anna White. She does construction projects, and I really like the things that she does. I find her very inspiring. Jameril Stewart and A Farmhouse Full. I watch both of those. Parsnips and Parsimony. There's No Place Like Home. Oh, of course, Just So Trish. I'm trying to like see my list in my mind of who all's on there. I can't remember. Oh, my friend Claire at a Cookie Crumb Fun. My mind is going blank. I don't know. Those are the ones that I probably the most likely to click on when I have time to sit down and watch a video. And even though I'm like, everyone has their different things that they're interested in that I may not be interested in, so I just watch the ones that I am interested in, and it mostly is just like checking in with a friend that I have developed a relationship with. So, oh, Don Preston, he was probably the first person I was ever subscribed to. He has like a Bible study channel, and I really like his videos, although a lot of times if you're not like familiar with what he's talking about, it might be confusing, but I really enjoy his. So a lot of times when I'm sitting and doing work at my desk, I'll just put on one of his playlists, or just so Trish has been doing her live streams once a week, and they're usually pretty long, so that's a good time for me to put one of hers on while I'm working at my desk, and I don't need to necessarily look at it, although she was just doing a Joanne Fabrics haul video, and I had to keep clicking on there to see what she was talking about, so it didn't work out. It was good to watch that one while I was working. If you weren't a mom or a YouTuber, what would you have done as your career? That one I had to think about for a while, because I don't know what I would have done. I was thinking, you know, everyone always tells me you should have been a party planner, or you should be an organizer, or I don't know, any number of things. But what it came down to is all I ever wanted to be was a mom. I'm doing my first choice, career choice already. So it's hard for me to think about what would have been different if I had made different life choices. When I was young, I worked in my uncle's propane office doing bookkeeping. I worked at several different hotels over the years before we were married as a cleaning person. I worked at a donut shop for 3 days, and I realized that was not going to happen for me because you had to be there at 3 o'clock in the morning, and I could stay up easily till 3, but getting up that early was not the life for me, so I did not stick with that job. I worked at a flower shop for a while, and there was also a Subway within that flower shop, so I helped at lunchtime, like just run the cash register, and they also had an ice cream shop in there too, so I had to serve ice cream. I did those direct sales parties, a home and garden party, a long time ago before Tom and I got married. In fact, I think my last party was like a week before our wedding. I have done a little bit of freelance type stuff with interior decorating for people. I made menus for a coffee shop once, and you know, like design things. I'm trying to think if there's any other money-making things I've engaged in, but when it comes down to it, oh, I was enlisted in the Marines. I didn't actually go, but I was supposed to work in intelligence, signals intelligence for the Marines. That's what I was recruited to do. So I have a wide variety of kind of random things that I have done, but what it comes down to is I always wanted to be a mom, and I like being able to use all of my skills in this setting, and I don't think I would be happy if I had to choose one of those things to make my main priority. But if for whatever reason the day came that I needed to make money at something, any number of those types of things would probably be what I would do. Currently, I'm hoping to get time to start writing, because I would really love to write books. My mom was a journalist, and you know, she always dreamed of writing a book, and she never did. And I think there's one book in particular I would like to write that was her kind of memoirs from when she had cancer, and combined all of the things that she wrote then with what I wrote after the fact, because she had like a mailing list of people that she kept up with, and I just thought that would be a really kind of a neat book to show like the journey through the whole process. And you know, obviously she passed away, but I also would like to write books on birthing and organization and all of the things that are of interest to me. So maybe someday I will be able to pull that one off, but we'll have to see. You know, if I had to choose one thing, if you could get paid for it, really being a life coach would have been something I would have enjoyed doing. Next, you're very creative, drawing with the kids, planning parties, etc. Have you had any formal art training, or are you naturally talented? No, I've never had any formal training. I just read things and learn things and go with it. One of my favorite books for learning drawing is called Drawing with Children. I don't remember who the author is right off the top of my head, but the picture on the cover is like a hand-drawn toucan bird. I really like that one. As for planning parties, the first party I ever planned was for my youngest sister, who's 12 years younger than I am. When she was 8, I think, I planned a Star Trek birthday party for her because we always watched Star Trek together, and I really had fun doing that. And that was the beginning for me of planning themed parties, and it's something I've always enjoyed doing. And then, how do you keep from getting overwhelmed? You always seem upbeat and organized. How do you do it all? Well, I don't. That's the truth of it. And I'm not always upbeat. I'm definitely not always organized. I get grumpy and weepy, like I'm sure everybody else does. I have had many days of feeling completely overwhelmed and like I didn't know what the heck to do. And it's still, especially now with pregnancy hormones, I had a good cry the day of the ultrasound when we got home because it'd been overwhelming shopping with 15 people in Hobby Lobby. Anyways, we all have our moments, and I guess maybe that's one of the things I've learned over the years is to like remember that just because I'm feeling this way right now doesn't mean that I'm always going to feel this way. Things come and go, and being disorganized at this moment doesn't mean I'm going to be disorganized forever. Feeling sad or frustrated or overwhelmed at this moment doesn't mean I'm always going to feel that way. And then I try to make a plan to get out of it. And sometimes it starts with like, what's the smallest step forward I could take that I will actually do to get me out of this quagmire that I find myself in. Like when you're stuck in the snow or mud, it's the instinct is to really push the gas hard and try to get yourself out of it, but then you just keep spinning your tires. And the trick is to tap it slowly, lightly, barely, just rock yourself out of it. And it's the same way in an emotional way when you're feeling like freaked out by life, is that you can want to find some big grand thing to fix it all, but it usually doesn't do anything but make it worse. So finding the smallest step forward you can take, and then taking it, and then finding the next small step forward, that can really make a difference. And I know there was a time when I would get so overwhelmed by the house, and so one day I made myself a checklist titled "When Everything's a Mess." Like when I sit here and I look around, I'm like, oh my gosh, everything is a mess and I don't even know where to start. I made a list of, okay, step 1, I was gonna like pick up all the trash. So literally there might be trash laying around on the floor, on the counters, on the table, wherever. And so I would walk through and find all the trash, and I could have the little kids help me too, because this was back when I had probably the 4 boys and they were all little, like 6 and under. And so we would just pick up all the trash, throw it away, take it out, and that would be dealt with. And the next step was to take care of food and dishes. So I would plan what we were going to eat, and then I would gather up any dirty dishes we're sitting down or sitting around and wash them, or at least get them to the sink if they were sitting around the house. And then the third step would be clothes. So we would walk around, pick up all the dirty clothes that were laying around, put away shoes, and get a load of laundry going. Then usually, well, if it had been a party day, because a lot of times this would happen after a birthday party or Christmas or whatever it was, everybody had been here and it was like the whole house was exploded. And so then we would deal with anything specific to the party, like putting away decorations, putting away presents, and those kinds of things. Then, room by room, go around and just finish tidying up whatever was left. And just having that plan and having one thing to focus on makes all the difference in the world. And it's the same with the kids with cleaning and things, that when you walk into a mess, it can feel so like you get stress paralyzed. I don't even know where to start. So just picking something, and usually the easiest thing, like Alejandra Costello, she calls it the low-hanging fruit. You don't start picking apples at the top of the tree. You start with the low-hanging fruit. And that's so true, is start with the easiest thing, that tiniest little step that you can do to move forward, and you gain momentum and things start looking up pretty soon. The other thing is, over the years, is I have learned to be who I am and live my own priorities rather than what other people's priorities are. And you know, I get questioned about a lot of things that people are like, how can you not do this, or how can you not do that, here on my YouTube channel. And I think those things aren't important to me, so why would I waste my time doing stuff that's important to you but not important to me? And I think a lot of the stuff that we get overwhelmed, especially with time, is we make commitments to things that aren't our priority or aren't really that valuable to us, and it becomes very stressful. For one thing, we're not involved in any sort of outside groups. We used to be in Cub Scouts with the boys and Boy Scouts. When we quit doing that, it was, I mean, I miss obviously seeing people, but the amount of work that it was, I do not miss it at all. And if there was a time where it became a priority again, we would of course start doing that again. But I think that it starts with knowing what your own values are and taking that time to think out, like, make a list of all the things that you do and say, if I can only do one thing on this list, what's the most important thing? Put a number 1 there, number 2, number 3. And you quickly realize that there's a lot of stuff that end up filtering to the bottom of the list that you don't even really care about, that don't bring you joy, that aren't fitting necessarily with your values. Maybe they're a good thing, but it's just not your top priority. And if you can figure out how to get out of that stuff, it'll make your life so much simpler. And when we stopped doing Cub Scouts, it was like I got a whole day of my week back, because every Tuesday I was always, you know, a leader of one of the groups. So it was like planning the lesson, preparing for all the stuff, going to it, recovering afterwards, and then of course once a month with the big meeting, and then whatever kind of outings that we all went on. It was a really time consuming, and it just wasn't providing the value to us that I thought it was when we signed up for it. I also remind myself that not now doesn't mean not ever. So there's different seasons where something really works well for us and we do it, and then there's other seasons where it's like, you know what, this is just too much, I can't handle this right now, and we're gonna stop doing X, Y, or Z. And it may be something that I enjoy, it's just not happening right now. But that doesn't mean that we can't pick that thing up later at a future time when life is different. And I guess on a day-to-day basis, when things are falling apart, which they do fall apart at our house just like they do at everybody else's, I just come in my room and I close the door for a little bit and I lay down on my bed and I take a nap. And half the time kids are coming back, even though I'm trying to keep them away, but I try to be like okay with that. Sometimes I take a little trip to the grocery store, to the post office, just to get out of the house for a few minutes. And of course this is easier now that I've got bigger kids. It wasn't like that when they were little, but in that case, my aunt is the one that told me about this. She had 7 kids. She says, I liked taking the garbage out at night because just that short walk out to the outdoor garbage can and back is enough to reset your brain a little bit and help you cope better with this stress. But I want you to remember, no matter what career choice you have, whether it's out there somewhere or if it's at home, everyone has bad days. Everyone has times that are overwhelming, that there's a ton of work that needs to get done in a short amount of time. There's days at the office when people aren't getting along. There's days at home when people aren't getting along. It's not you. It's not your house. It's just the way life is, and it's not going to be different if you work somewhere else. So you can't like escape from stress. You can't escape from conflict. It's everywhere you go. So just learning how to like take a step back and calm your own brain. We'll actually a lot of times go outside, or I'll send a child outside and we call it going to get some photon energy, because sunlight does make a big difference in your attitude. So just go sit on the porch for a little bit in the sunshine and collect yourself and come back when you're feeling better. Or mom, collect herself and come back when she's feeling better, and we'll keep going. So I do feel overwhelmed. I still have those moments. It's less now than it used to be, but it's because I've learned coping skills along the way. And, you know, any of you that are struggling, you will learn those skills too, and you will get better at it. And the days of being overwhelmed will get further apart. And you won't become so, what's the word? You won't take it so seriously. Like, I can have a bad day and Tom comes home or he calls and he's like, things aren't sounding too good. And I'm like, no. But I can acknowledge now, it's just a day. It's not life. It's just a day that was kind of cruddy. Tomorrow's going to be fine. You know, for me, one of my biggest things is spending time with Tom at the end of the day when all the kids are hopefully in bed. They keep coming back a lot of times. But just having that time just to sit with him and snuggle with him and kind of relax is a big thing too. And I guess one more thing on that topic is just to be organized and then I'll feel overwhelmed is you literally, you cannot do it all. So I'm going to stress that part again. You have to get rid of stuff. You have to be realistic about your time. And, you know, one time I sat down just like last year and wrote down all the things that I would like to get done in a day, how much time I estimated that would take me. And then I added it all up. And if I didn't sleep, I would only need to work 36 hours a day to get everything done. Clearly that's not going to happen. So I kind of laughed about the whole thing in my lofty ideals of what I could actually accomplish and just be reasonable about the fact that it would be nice to do all this stuff, but I'm only one person. I can't do it all. And I don't know, just let go of stuff. Like start, like I said, prioritizing. I can't do this. With Tom once, I made a list of all these kind of ideas of what I thought I should be, you know. I think we actually heard it at a speaker talking about it. So it was like being a spiritual supergiant and having an immaculately clean home, or a supermodel body, or something about your cooking. I can't remember, but I made my list and I had him prioritize what would be your top priority, your second. And I was surprised at how it all shook out. I was not expecting what he said, because I was putting pressure on myself in areas that he didn't even care about. And so it really took a lot of the pressure off of me. I realized, okay, maybe I don't need to be worrying about this stuff so much as I thought I did. And I'll, you know, focus more on these areas. And just, you know, getting rid of stuff in the house too. Just not feeling the need to have everything and to do everything and to be awesome like everybody else is apparently awesome. But just, what are my own priorities? Focus on those and appreciate the amazing things that other people do without feeling the need to do them myself. Okay, so now I guess we'll focus on answering some questions on parenting and the kids in particular. The first one I see pop up here is, why do you wear matching clothes? And I've already done a video all about that, so I'll put a link down below for you guys to click on that if that's something that you're wanting to know the answer to. Do your kids fight or get jealous? Yes, they do. Just like everybody else's kids. They don't like fist fight or roll around punching each other or things like that, but they get angry, they bicker, they what's the word? They don't let things go. That drives me crazy. And how do you handle it when they argue and fight? Generally, I just tell them to stop. If that doesn't work, I will usually separate them and say, like, you go over here, you go over there, until, because here's the big thing, is that when you argue with someone, this is something that happens here on my channel that drives me bonkers, that for me, I disagree with a lot of people on a lot of things, but I do not feel the need, like if I watch a video about something that I disagree with, I've never once got on there and told them what I thought was wrong with them or how wrong they are. Everybody's got their thing. If that's how they feel, that's great. Now, if they were to ask me personally, what do you think about this? Of course I would respond, but I don't feel the need to go around telling everybody in the world what's wrong with them and how they should do things differently. Clearly there's a lot of people who don't feel the same way, because there's a lot of people who disagree with something I think or whatever, and they're going to let me know about it. And even if they're saying it nicely, to me, there's still no point in that. There's one thing to say it once. This is what I teach my kids. It's one thing if you see your brother not doing what he's supposed to do, and you say to him, hey, you're supposed to do whatever. And then he does or does not listen to you. You have no control over that. It's another thing to say it twice. Maybe you think they didn't get you the first time. So I would be merciful and say, sure, maybe a second time would be fine. But beyond that, you're trying to use force. And you cannot force another person to do the right thing. You cannot force another person to agree with you. You cannot force another person to think what you think. So if you continue arguing the point with them, you're just going to cause them to dig in their heels more. So I try to teach them once is enough. After that, you're just being a jerk and you need to knock it off, because you're not solving the problem. You're just making a bigger issue. And I practice that on my channel. I try to limit responses to two responses to a person. Lately, I haven't even had the desire to do that. I just block people right away, because I feel like if you don't have the courtesy to just listen and, go your merry way if you don't agree, and you're gonna heckle me about it, then I don't feel the need to respond. I have invited people recently everybody's got their own ability to make their own YouTube channel and to share their ideas just like I'm doing. So there's nothing to stop someone from making a video on their own time and putting their own effort into it to share their ideas all day long. But I am under no obligation to provide a platform for that person to be rude or to heckle me or to just, even if it's not being rude, it's just why you keep saying it. Like recently on my unassisted birth topic, I just think to myself, 99% of babies are born in a hospital, and this person who was acting like I was what was the word? Oh, she was saying something that had to be said, like somebody had to say it, and I think 99% of babies are born in a hospital. So it's not like it was some courageous act to share this very common idea with everybody. To me, it's just rude to continue saying things. To me, it's just rude, I guess. And I don't want my kids to grow up being rude. So we have this conversation. You're being a jerk. Stop saying things. Let it go. If you can't let it go, move along, because you're making everybody else miserable, and nobody wants to be around somebody that's fighting and bickering. So I sent them along to go their merry way, or at least leave us to our merry way while they go be angry somewhere else. So yeah, that's kind of how I handle it when they're fighting. I really need Tom's backup a lot of times, and that's relevant here with this next one. I wasn't expecting my boys to have so many hormones and emotions going through puberty. Any advice on how to handle it? It's the same idea, because we all know as women how you can be angry for no reason whatsoever, and it's your hormones. And so I try to talk to my boys about the fact that what you're feeling right now is not based on reality. It's based on your hormones. Maybe you should go take a nap or get away for a little bit. But mainly I try to help them become self-aware that it's just them. And not in a mean way, but to teach them the skills of recognizing why they're feeling what they're feeling and how to deal with it on their own. If that doesn't help and they don't want to lay down, or they keep being grumpy and mean to people, we might have to call Dad and he has a talk with them on the phone, or I will just kind of let it go because I don't want to escalate the situation. And then when Tom comes home, I'll say, so-and-so has been a real problem today, and then he'll take him aside and have a man-to-man talk with them. Then someone wants to know, do our kids have any friends outside of our family, and how often do they see them? Yes, I've talked about this a little bit before, but our kids have lots of friends. Our neighborhood is full of kids. We meet kids at the library. We know kids from when we're in Scouts or going to Bible school, or we live in a small town that was literally settled by my family, my ancestors. So we have deep roots here. We know pretty much everybody. It's hard to go anywhere without knowing a good majority of the people that we see. So friends are in abundance. I don't necessarily get very much video of it, of the kids with their friends, because I don't feel comfortable putting other people's kids on camera if I'm not certain that their parents are okay with it. So when kids come over to play, which happens, I don't know if they see them every single day, but most days there's at least one friend or two that are part of life here. But you will pretty much never see that because I don't take videos of it. So it's not unusual to just have a knock on the door or the doorbell ring and there's a couple of kids standing there on the porch that want to come in and play, or the kids, you know, go over to their houses and play. I'm more likely to maybe sometimes take a little video of that because it's from a distance and it's not a big deal. But, or they meet friends at the park, or just, you know, I don't know, they just see them a lot. So friends aren't a big part of our life, but it's not a big part of our YouTube channel. So I guess you might get the perception that they're not, but they really are. Okay, so now we're going to answer some questions about homeschooling. And the first one is, why do you homeschool? And I did answer this question before, but I'll share it again here. I don't know that this was necessarily the coherent thought that we were having when we made the decision to homeschool, but I have been able to kind of understand it better myself over the years as I've figured out what our priorities are. That the reason we homeschool is basically because we're a family, and most things in life, businesses, institutions, and things are secondary to the original thing. So God created families to bear children and to nurture them and to teach them, and just the same as families are who provides the food, does the cooking, all those kinds of things. And that doesn't mean that there's no place in the world for restaurants to produce food or for schools to produce education, but the part of it, the beginning of it, is that was the purpose of a family, was to do these things. And because we're a family, we want to educate our own kids. I guess just being a family is our top priority, and I can't think of any good reason for us to send out that work to someone else. And not that there's anything wrong with someone else wanting to hire someone else to teach their children, but that doesn't fit with our values and our priorities. We want to do it ourselves. So that's why we choose to homeschool, is because basically we want to parent our own kids. And schools, somebody asked me this recently, do I see myself as a teacher or a mom when I'm having school with the kids? And I said, it's not about how I see myself, it's how I see a school. And a school is a substitute family for children. So teachers are kind of the substitute mom or dad, and the classmates are substitute siblings, and of course we have all the aunts, uncles, and cousins in the extended classes. I appreciate the work that they do, especially for families that can't do it for themselves. I, again, would much rather be a family with my family than have a substitute have to do it for me, if that makes any sense. This is some questions from someone who does not live in America, and where she is, people don't homeschool, so she just had lots of questions. And she says, do you have to have a degree or certification to homeschool, or can anyone do it? As far as I know, I don't know about other state laws, but I'm pretty sure it's the same everywhere, that no, you don't have to have a degree or certification. Again, thinking back to the role of a school, whatever authority government has taken for itself, the school is the substitute for the family. It's not the family that's a substitute for the school. So to say a parent has to have government approval or whatever to raise their own children, to me, is a really horrendous thought. And so I'm very thankful that those requirements are not put on families to prove to the government that they are capable of raising their own children. If your kids want to go to the university, how does that work? It works the same as it does for any other student. So if a homeschool, it's illegal to discriminate against homeschoolers, and if a homeschool student wants to go to a college, they take the SAT or the ACT just like everybody else. They apply just the same way. It all works exactly the same whether you went to a public school, a private school, or a homeschool. Do you have to buy your own school books and supplies? The answer is yes, you do. And there's a lot of people that push for vouchers or government assistance with things like that. But again, this is how I see it. It's my job to pay to educate my own kids. It's not all my friends and neighbors' jobs to pay to educate them. It's mine. They're my kids. I'm the one that have them. This is my responsibility. I need to pay for it. I can tell you that in our state, the listed price per student for education in my state is $10,000. But if you take the total education budget by the total number of students, it's more like $20,000 per child. And we do it for $200 to $300 per child. So it's a much less expensive method of educating a child, doing it at home, than depending on taxpayers to pay to educate your children in a public school. And then of course I think private schools kind of fall in between those two price ranges. So I guess what I'm saying is, even if I were offered money to pay for school supplies, I would not take it because I don't feel good about doing that. There is what they call like public school at home, where you're still a public school student, but you do the work at home and the school gives you your curriculum and a computer and all that. But those people are actually technically not homeschoolers. Hey, little lady. Okay, we'll go wash your hands. And it's actually really restrictive time-wise. To me, it's like the worst of both worlds.
Mom, it's called chocolate bar mess.
It's a chocolate bar mess? Where'd you get a chocolate bar? Oh, did you go to the store with Asher?
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Worst of both worlds, because basically you have the mess and all that of having school at home, but you don't have the freedom to set your own hours. You have to be on when you're supposed to be on, and so there's like no flexibility. So I would not do that. I'm talking on the video to all of our friends that had some questions for me. Do you homeschool using a charter school? If not, how do you keep records for your children? No, we don't use a charter school. It's actually not hard to keep your own school records. I've made my own forms. You can buy forms online and you literally just fill them out as you go. Or if you're disorganized like I am sometimes, I will let tests and things stack up, and then eventually I get around to filling in all my forms. But even once you get into high school, there's all sorts of online services and templates and things to make your own high school transcripts and everything. So it's really not difficult, and especially for the price that it costs to be a part of a charter school, for that is, like, to me, not even remotely worth the hassle of it and the expense of it. I might one of these days, I can't remember, I talked a little bit about record keeping before, but I think I do need to make a video specifically on that one of these days. Since you homeschool, do the kids have to take a state test to move on to the next grade? No, they don't. Of course, there are some states where they make you keep portfolios and have to have them reviewed by people. I'm thankful we do not live in a state like that. As I said, we're raising our children. We're not the substitute for the school. The school is the substitute for the parent. And so I'm really thankful that at least in our state, that's acknowledged, and there's no need to have state approval to move on to the next grade. What do each of the kids want to be when they grow up? Do any of them want to fix computers? This is something that we've answered on our live streams a few times, and I think Asher has said maybe he'd like to fix computers. I don't know. They all kind of learn a little bit, but I don't know if any of them are really like gung-ho, that's what I'm going to do. I don't know that Tom was at that age either. Let's see. Thomas, when he was young, wanted to be a farmer. Now I think he loves to clean and organize, so he thinks being a hotel housekeeper would be great. I don't know. I don't know what he'll do. Asher would love to be like a yard person. Like, he loves mowing and planting and things like that. So doing sort of a landscaping business, I think would be ideal for him. I don't know if that's what he would like to do. Judah would be excellent as a carpenter. Building houses and things, that's really right up his alley. He used to want to be a garbage man when he was little. I don't think he wants to be that anymore, but it was pretty cute. And then, who else? Justice. I don't know. Justice doesn't really have nothing's jumped out at him, out yet as what he would like to do. Eden, all of the girls, of course, want to be a mom when they grow up. Solomon told me the other day he'd like to be a mailman, so there you go. Yeah. Do any of your kids sit and whine about their schoolwork for an entire day? This mom has a 2nd grader. He also doesn't want to read instructions. Oh yes. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. They might not actually whine. My kids don't. But they will waste time. And I have 2 in particular that are excellent at that. And it's interesting because when we did that personality, when I read the book about the different personalities, they have the same personality and they have Tom's personality. And when we went through Tom's report cards from school, over and over and over again, his teachers said how brilliant he was, but he wouldn't apply himself. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's my 2 boys that have the same issue. So yes, I know the frustration of like, why won't you just do your work and get it over with? It's so frustrating. So
Mom, can you hear me so you can that thing?
No, we're not gonna lock it. Anyways, nagging doesn't seem to help all that much, but basically letting them have the natural consequences of wasting their whole day. Like, look at all the fun everybody else had, or look at where they got to go, but you missed out because you're just not doing your work. Rewards only work in the short term. So every once in a while, if it's an important day we need to get stuff done, we might have some sort of incentive, but I don't like to overuse it because it ceases to have any power. That's fine. So basically, to me, it's just accepting the fact that this child would rather waste their day than just get on it. And when they do get on it and get work done fast, be like, doesn't that feel good? Doesn't it feel good to enjoy your day instead of spending the day with this thing looming over you that needs to be done? But it can be difficult to be patient with a child that does that.
I want to be baby tomorrow.
You want to be a baby tomorrow? Okay, next we're going to answer some questions that have kind of to do with the house and family organization. The first question is, are you going to redo the girls' room? And yes, that's been on our plan for a couple of years. We obviously knew we were going to have to do it eventually. So whether or not we were going to have a boy or a girl this time, we were going to need to redo the girls' room because Claudia will have to move out of the crib to make room for the new baby, no matter who it was. Now that we're having a girl, we know that we're going to have 4 girls in that bedroom. So we do have the plans aren't so concrete that Tom hasn't actually sat down with his AutoCAD and planned it all out. But we have a pretty good idea of what we're going to do in there. And of course, you guys will get to see or go along with us as we work on that, hopefully in the spring. Will you add on to your house? That would be awesome. I would love to add on to the house. We don't want to borrow money if at all possible, which is why we have not done that. But if we were going to add on to our house, it would not necessarily be bedrooms. It would be a very large family room because we have people at our house all the time. We're always having parties. We're having just get-togethers. We have people over for church on Sundays, and fitting everyone into our tiny little living room kitchen, it works fine. It really is fine. We could live this way forever, but it'd be nice to have a lot bigger space for everybody to be in at the same time. So if I were to add on one thing, it would be a really big family room, dining room type situation. The other thing that we've considered adding on, not at our expense, but for my grandma, we have told her, and she has, expressed a desire to do this possibly. If the day comes when my grandma Fern can't take care of herself and needs to go live with someone, To me, it would be cheaper to add a room, a bedroom and a bathroom onto our house for her than for her to go live into a nursing home. And that would be at her expense though, not at ours. So if that ever happened, or if that ever became a necessity, that's always a possibility. Then my other grandparents said, well, why don't we add on 2 rooms and we'll come live with you too? And I was like, hey, the more the merrier, that'd be great. So who knows what the future will bring. But when do you start your Christmas shopping? How many gifts do you get for each child? Are they joint gifts, or does everyone get their own? We usually start our Christmas shopping right about now, right at, end of November, beginning of December. We try to get each of the kids one gift at least for themselves alone, and then maybe like a joint boys gift and a joint girls gift. And then sometimes we will buy something, do something bigger, like when we put the zip line out in the yard or something like that, that's just for all the kids together. But they draw names for each other and buy each other a small gift. And then just with all the grandmas and grandpas and everybody, there's still a load of presents to open on Christmas morning. And it just, I don't know, I just don't like overdoing it. I don't like being too extravagant, because it's a real letdown when you become an adult and you've had overly extravagant Christmases. It really builds up your expectations, and I would rather keep things simple and more humble, I guess, than that. So did that answer all that? Yeah, I guess it did. Do you want, I should put these in a better order. Do you want to move to a larger house? Not necessarily. I would love, as I said, to add on to our house, but our house is special to us. We've lived here since, we actually technically bought the house before we were even married. We didn't live in it till after we were married. But this is where we came as newlyweds. This is where 3 of our babies have been born. All of our years of raising our kids has been here. And I'm just not a person, we aren't people that feel the need to always be improving in that sense of bigger and better. We're obviously always working on making the house work for us better, but we put ourselves into it, and I have no desire to start over somewhere else. I would never say never, because who knows what the future holds or what God's plans are for us. But just moving for the sake of getting a bigger house is not something that is a big thing for me. And I also realized when we were staying with Tom's stepdad that it's harder in some ways to have a family in a bigger house, because for me, I felt like I can't keep track of everyone in this big house. They're all scattered all around. I can't hear what's going on. And here, my bed is literally I don't know, 6 or 8 feet from the dining table. And I can lay down on the bed, take a little nap, and I still can keep an ear on everything that's going on. So there's real benefits. There's real benefits to having a smaller house. So I personally don't want to move to a bigger house just because it's a bigger house. Can you share your fudge recipe? I got my recipe from allrecipes.com. Hopefully I will remember to put a link for it down below. So if I don't remember, somebody remind me. Do you still use your card file system for meal planning? Pretty much, yes, we still do that. I have been meaning for a year to add more cards to it, and I haven't. But yeah, it still works really great. So do you wash a load of clothes Monday through Friday or Sunday to Saturday? Basically, do you wash clothes 5 days a week or 7 days a week? We take Sunday off. So whatever was in the washing machine Saturday stays there till Monday. But otherwise, we do 1 load a day, every day. The only reason we really take Sunday off is because we're usually really in a hustle to get chores done before everybody gets here for church. And so it just seemed like one of those things that we could just leave, because otherwise I just have a basket of laundry sitting on my bed all during church. And so we just stopped doing it on Sundays. Do you wash your bras and gentle items with the regular clothes, and do you use a gentle or regular cycle? I usually wash them with the socks and underwear and things like that, just on a regular cycle. If I need one clean, otherwise I'll just hand wash it in the sink in the bathroom. How do you make a living? It doesn't seem like a small town computer guy could make enough money for your monthly hauls and bills. Well, apparently a small town computer guy can make enough money, because that is our only source of income. I don't monetize my channel, so I don't make any money from doing YouTube. We don't take any sort of government assistance, even as I've already talked about. We educate our own kids, so we don't even get that sort of assistance. But even though we're a small town, Tom goes to about 3 different counties. So there's a lot of different towns around in the area that he travels to get to do repairs. So it's not just our little town that is where he's working. So that is our only source of income. And I will say, I did my budget video almost a year ago, and there was kind of a mixed thing about some people saying, wow, that's a lot of money. I don't think I can afford to have a large family, and other people saying, like, I don't know, how can you do that kind of a thing. Our budget, our ideal budget, is $6,000 a month to do everything that we want to do, but probably this entire year there hasn't been a month that we've actually got $6,000. Some months we've had literally half of that, and so we use our savings that we may put aside for a vacation or something else to make up for where we are lacking in some other area. And that's just the way life is. But even on half of that, we can still meet all of our basic needs, and we just can't save for things that are the big things, like clothes shopping or Christmas gifts or going on a vacation. We might have to cut back on things like that, but in the end, it all works out. Everything gets paid. It's all fine. Why don't you get paid from YouTube? If you don't need the money, you could give it away. This one is a little touchy for me because I don't want to come across as being a person who's like condemning someone else for playing ads on their videos or whatever. So this is in no way a condemnation of somebody else's choices. I'm just telling you what my values are and why I choose not to. And this isn't even for Tom or Judah. They have their own channels, and I'm not even, if they want to put ads on their videos, that's just fine with me. For me, I have several reasons why I don't want to. For one, I am doing this to be a friend and to make relationships with people and to help people, and I feel like having to make videos that are advertiser friendly or doing sponsorships can change the decisions you make and the tone of your channel, and I don't want to be tempted to be less myself based on those things. So that was one of the reasons. Second reason is you don't have control over what ads play on your videos, and basically the only time I've seen nudity and, you know, offensive things like that on an ad were on someone's channel that would be probably horrified if they knew what was being played before their video. I just don't want to expose people to that sort of thing just so that I can maybe possibly make a few pennies. But I guess the biggest overall reason that I don't is because it's one thing, I'm not opposed to making money off my YouTube channel. If I can write some books or sell things that way, and I have, you know, a built-in what do you call it, like you guys can be my customers and buy those things from me. I'm providing you something that you want and you voluntarily choose to purchase from me and pay me for it. I'm totally good with that sort of a business relationship. But putting ads on a video isn't that kind of a business relationship. I am not having a relationship with you. I'm having a relationship with an advertiser. If I put this into real life terms, what this is I'm inviting you to come into my home as a friend, get to know me. We're going to spend some time together. So let's say that this was literally at my house. I invite you to come over, and you come up to my door, and you're going to knock on the door, and you're going to come in. But before you come in, I have agreed to let a vacuum cleaner salesman hang out on my front porch. And when you come to the door, he's going to try to sell you a vacuum cleaner. And my agreement with him is that if he succeeds, and at least you listening to his pitch, he will give me a little bit of money for it. I don't feel good about that situation at all. I don't feel good about trying to exploit you for my personal benefit. And that's really what putting the advertisements feels like to me on a video. It's not about me providing you with the service that you want to pay for, It's about me letting someone try to sell you something before you come into my house. And I don't like that. I did set up a, Patreon account, but I didn't even feel good about that. I feel like, you know what, if somebody wants to contribute financially, my address is in the description. You're free to, of your own free will, do that. But I didn't even feel good about the Patreon thing. It just felt like I was asking for money, and that's not why I'm doing this. I'm not doing this for my financial benefit. I'm doing it to try to help other people and to be a friend to other people, and I just don't feel good about it. And donating the money that the vacuum cleaner salesman gave me doesn't feel like a good thing either. Like, it's not that I don't need money. We all need money. Like I said, there's been many months this year that we've lived on half of our ideal budget. So it's not that we wouldn't like to have more money. I'm just not willing to do something I don't feel good about in order to get money. And that's been my personal philosophy all along. I remember when Tom and I first started our business, he was offered a couple of different jobs, and one of them he was going to have to sell pornography. It was a convenience store. I'm like, I don't feel good about that. One of them was the hours was he would be gone pretty much all the time the kids were awake. And I just said to him, I would rather be poor than have him gone all the time. Family is important to me. That's my values. And money is not a high value. It's obviously a necessity of life, but I'm not willing to do something that goes against my values in order to get it. And again, that doesn't mean that everyone else sees it like I do. This is not a condemnation of anyone else. Even with my little guy Judah, I told him, if you want to put ads on your videos, you do whatever you want to do. This is not me dictating to you what you should do. It's just how I feel about it, and that's why I don't do it. How do you handle months when your credit card bill is too big to pay? Do you use your savings? Yes, that's exactly what we do. If we can't even pay it that way, then that's a big sign to, like, we need to stop spending for a little while until we get this dealt with, because I don't like having credit card. I don't like ever paying interest on a credit card. So I like the convenience of being able to take care of everything with a credit card and just pay the bill at the end of the month. But I don't like carrying a balance if at all possible. So if we can't pay it all for whatever reason, what happens for us a lot is that we build out a lot of things to customers, but we haven't got the money back in again. So a lot of times we bought parts and things like that, but we haven't got paid for them. So we will use our savings, or as I said, if it happens like 2 months in a row, then that's a sign of eat from the pantry, don't be spending money, kind of a thing. We have 2 more categories, I guess. I might be able to hurry up and get these out before it's like dinner time. So these are all on religion, and I might not do justice by them. We'll see. What religion are you? We are Christian. We don't consider ourselves a particular denomination. You want to hear non-denominational? To me, that still is a denomination. Tom and I were both raised Southern Baptist. We don't necessarily fit with that anymore. We went to a non-denominational church before we started our home church, and I have no idea what somebody would categorize us if you want to, like, pin down all of our beliefs. I don't know where we would fit, but we just consider ourselves Christian. How do you tithe since you home church? That's a big topic, but I will say as briefly as I can that tithing was the method of sustaining the priesthood in the old covenant system, and obviously that system's not in place where there's no temple, there's no priests anymore, but we are a kingdom of priests. And I guess the New Testament ideal was, which I think really was the thing from all along, but just meeting each other's needs. Fellow Christians, our brothers and sisters in Christ, when they need us. Well, first, your immediate family. A man who doesn't take care of his own family is worse than an unbeliever, it says. Second, it's that extended body of Christ. We give to them, help them when they're in need. And then third, of course, is the community as a whole. So we don't focus on like a percentage of our income. We consider the money that we use for or pay for Samaritan Ministries as being giving, because we're not receiving a service for that necessarily. It's just us giving money that we give to another Christian family who has a healthcare need, and we help with that. Whoever God puts in our life, which happens regularly, that has a need, we privately give to that person. We don't make an issue of it. We don't keep track of it. We just try to be generous, and kind of like the Good Samaritan. He wasn't like going out of his way to look for somebody that needed help. Just along his way, he comes along this guy that's laying on the side of the road and needs his help, and he helped him. And that's kind of our attitude about giving financially, is that we just, whenever God brings someone into our path that needs our assistance, we help them. I'm curious about the audio Bible playing all the time. Can you touch on this? I was raised Catholic, but I'm not really religious as an adult. Someone else wants to know what version our audio Bible is and what Bible version we prefer, why we don't like the King James Version. I'm going to have to say, it's not that I don't like the King James Version, it's just that it's Old English, and a lot of the words don't mean anything to us anymore. And obviously if you learn it, that's fine, but I would just rather have a modern translation that makes more sense to my brain. So we use the NIV version, the 1984 version. I don't like the new version because it's kind of weird, but that's what our audio Bible is. And I guess we just have that version because that's what we grew up with. Tom says if he were to start over, he would use the New American Standard Bible. But we have learned so much, like memorized so much through our audio Bible with the NIV, that it would be hard to start over with a different version, because it just is what we're used to. The reason we started playing the audio Bible was probably, I don't know, 5-6 years ago. Tom started playing Proverbs at night for the boys at bedtime. He would just set it to play for them to listen to when they were going to bed. And then one day he's like, you know what, why don't I do this for the whole house, not just the boys? And then he ended up doing the whole Bible, not just Proverbs. And then it was like, let's just leave it playing all the time, because it was really helpful. Like, so many times I would be wondering about something, and the next thing you know, it's playing on the audio Bible, answering my question. All right, here's the same verses, a few different, very close together, that all of a sudden I was like getting things that I had never connected in my brain before. And we just saw such a fruitful way of understanding God and understanding what things meant. That, not that there's not a place, there's definitely a place for sitting down reading and thinking things through, but it gave much more of a big picture for us, because we literally are going through the entire Bible every couple of days. And especially when at nighttime, we don't have it loud. It's not even playing out in the main rooms of the house, but it's just playing quietly in the background. And at night when I was laying awake nursing a baby or whatever, I'm listening to it. And I can't tell you how many times I had an epiphany in the middle of the night, because my brain was so calm and I'm just listening, and I'm like, oh, I'd never got that before. It was so amazing. So it's been really an awesome thing for our family. The last one was on the topic of Halloween. Why do we celebrate it? It's a pure heathen festival for people who practice Wicca or the occult. That's not true, even though I know that's a common thing for people to believe, especially in other countries. Halloween is All Hallows Eve. It was more of a Catholic holiday, I believe, that celebrated Christians who had died, and it came the day before All Saints' Day. There was another pagan festival that was kind of at the same time, and a lot of the customs have gotten meshed together between the two. And of course, we're both celebrating death, but in a very different ways. So I have no problem with celebrating Halloween in America. It's not like it's something, apparently it's a much more big deal in other countries to connect it with the occult and things like that. In America, it was more of a, as I said, more of that, the All Hallows Eve. It was focusing on Christians who had died. And I'm going to say that just because one group of people is doing something on October 31st doesn't mean that I am, because what's in your heart is what is reality. There's a story, I believe it was, I want to connect it with Naaman, but now I'm not sure, when he was healed of leprosy. I might be totally off, But whichever person this was in the Old Testament, he became a Christian. Well, he wasn't called a Christian then, but he became a believer in God. But he still had to take his master into the temple of the whatever idol that they worshipped, and he had to help him because his master needed his help physically to walk in there and to bow down to this idol. And so he asked the prophet Elijah, I believe it was, I hope I'm getting this right, basically like, I have to do this, even though, you know, will God forgive me that even though I'm bowing down in front of this idol, that's not what I'm really doing. I'm not really worshiping this idol. And the prophet assured him that, you know, he could go in peace. He was fine. And that's the whole thing, that we're doing what we do. We do what we do not because we're trying to worship Satan or something like that, which there's a whole other topic I'd like to talk about someday. But for these purposes, that's not what's happening. Taking part, to me, is a community time where people have fun, going to the neighbors' houses and just coming together as a community. And if we were to stop doing everything that is ever done for the wrong reason or by people who have an evil intent, the list of acceptable activities will get smaller and smaller and smaller. And the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. The motive of my heart has nothing to do with some sort of demonic thing. And it would be different if it did. And I guess that's where this kind of comes about. Like, for people who have this really conscious awareness that that's what they think it is, if you were to participate, you would be feeling really guilty inside. And for you, it actually would be a sin. The Apostle Paul talks about that like for some people, eating meat was a sin. And he's saying it's not a sin. But if you feel that it's sinful and you do it anyways, then for you it is a sin. And I would say that with Halloween. If you live in a place where it's a big deal, that this is a big pagan holiday, and you would be worshiping Satan to participate, then I would certainly hope that you would not do it. That is not how it is here. I don't know if that's a good explanation. I'm trying to hurry. So, yeah, I probably could do a better job. But it's getting dark. It's time to make supper. So I am going to save the health-related questions for another time. Thank you guys for coming over. I hope you got something from this. I feel like my brain is kind of scattered, and my pregnancy shortness of breath is probably coming out. I'll talk to you guys again very soon. Well, I'm back. I know I already said goodbye, but I was just sitting down today to edit this video, and I thought, you know what, I might as well just go ahead and finish these last few questions and put it all in one video. So the last section that I need to get to was kind of on health issues, and the first question was, how do you make the hawthorn berry heart medicine? And I will just put a link. I think that there's a video out there that explains how to do it. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure that there's like a blog post that someone did about that. So I'll just put a link for that. If I forget and you're watching this, remind me in the comments and say, hey, where's that link? Because I tend to forget these kinds of things. So I believe you use grape brandy and the hawthorn berries, but I would say you could probably still just make a regular tincture out of the hawthorn berries too, which to do a tincture, you just soak whatever your herbs are in vodka, or you can use vinegar if you wanted, and you let it set for 4 to 6 weeks, and then at the end of that time you strain out the herbs and the liquid is the medicine. So there's that one. The next one is, do you have a remedy for colds? Well, I would say the first thing that I do for colds is usually nothing. That's kind of my first instinct with most illnesses, is just to let things be, and unless there's enough discomfort or something that makes me think, okay, let's go ahead and do something. But I prefer just to let things run their course. Echinacea is something that I like to use, and lots of extra vitamin C. For a cough, we usually do just a spoonful of raw honey, and it actually works really well for helping to calm a cough. Sometimes we'll do like a tea, basically, like lemon, honey, and a little bit of cayenne pepper, and that's a little hot on your lips, especially for little people. So we'll use a straw to drink it so it doesn't like burn your lips, or instead of using the cayenne pepper, and I'm talking just a little pinch, doing the red pepper flakes like what you put on pizza or something. It still infuses a little bit into the hot water, but it's not as powerful as actual ground up pepper. So that's helpful. Something I've been wanting to make that I haven't tried yet, but is taking thyme, like the herb thyme, and then an herb called umcalobo, and I have bought it, but I have not made it yet, and make an honey infusion of those two herbs. And you do that the same way as you do a tincture. How I would probably do it is I would take my raw honey, put it in my little tiny mini slow cooker, keep the lid off so it doesn't get too hot, and warm the honey, and then put my herbs in there and mix them all up, the thyme and the umcalobo. And then after like 24 hours in the warm honey, then I would strain the herbs out and then use the honey with hot water to drink as a remedy. So that's what I'm going to say for now on colds. Next, what do you do about dental and optometry care? The next one is similar. Do your children get teeth cleanings and eye exams? And for me, I would rather keep an eye on things at home, because it's a huge hassle taking all the kids into the eye doctor or the dentist or whatever. And it takes a whole day and it costs a fortune. And there are a lot of places online that you can learn what types of things to look for. I keep little dental charts with the kids when I check their teeth at home. And for me, I don't want the kids to have fluoride treatments, and I would rather not have x-rays unless they're really necessary. So that means there's not a lot that I want the dentist to do when I take them to the dentist. So I just keep an eye on things myself. Every once in a while I'll take a look in all their mouths. I lay them down on the bed and I get a flashlight and we check everything. I keep little tooth charts. If I see a tiny cavity, I keep an eye on it. Realistically, the jury is still out on whether or not filling cavities and baby teeth actually is beneficial or not, and that tells me how I am. I'd rather not go to the time and expense and the trauma of it if it's iffy, if there's even any benefit to doing it. I'm not saying that there's never a benefit, but I would rather just let things be. And I do know from personal experience that cavities can heal themselves. We just found that out accidentally when it happened with Thomas. He had a cavity in his front tooth, and one day I'm like, where the heck did that cavity go? It wasn't there anymore. And so I'm thinking back, what did we do? And I was trying to think like what we were doing consistently over that time to figure out what might have caused that to happen. And then I started doing some research to see if other people have had this experience. And what it came to me was that during that 6 months or so, we had every day for breakfast been having like a homemade oatmeal with lots of cream and butter in it, and fruit with vitamin C. We actually were taking a vitamin C supplement and a cod liver oil supplement and eggs. That's what we were having for breakfast almost every single morning. And I had read that especially the cod liver oil and the butter combination helps your body to absorb minerals. And other people had also had the experience of healing cavities with that. So that's just kind of what we do. We just keep an eye on things, and if something were to get bad or whatever, then we would go to the dentist. But I don't do it as a routine. With optometry care, it's the same thing. I have my own eye charts. We check the kids' eyes. We keep an eye on things and see if it seems like they're having a problem. And if it seemed like there was a problem, we would go to the eye doctor. For myself, I wear glasses, and I usually only go like when it's time to renew my driver's license. My eyes never change, and I just, but I have to have it to renew my license. So that's usually when I go for an eye exam. But with everything, we just keep an eye on stuff ourselves. Same with hearing tests. I bought a kit to do our own hearing tests at home. And I think you can actually probably do it online also. But I'm all for using the doctor when it's necessary, but I'm not much for going in just for the kind of ritual examinations when I can do it cheaper and easier and more convenient at home with the kids. Oh, and for the teeth cleaning, we do charcoal cleanings at home on a, every several months or so. And I would prefer not to have professional cleanings unless it was really necessary, because there is always the risk of damage happening to the teeth from that. And our kids actually have really good teeth. We've had a few cavities, but for the most part, I think they all must have inherited Tom's teeth. He's never had a cavity, and I've had a mouthful of them. So, but with the charcoal cleanings, I take charcoal powder, put it in a little dish, and then dip a wet toothbrush into it, and I basically just brush their teeth really good for them and get all the nooks and crannies. And if there's something really yucky, I'll carefully scrape those teeth. But that's what we do for cleanings. Do you vaccinate your children? I feel like there was more questions. Maybe I'm just going fast, I guess. Do you vaccinate your children? We don't anymore. We did up through our first 4, had all of the routine vaccinations. Justice had most of them, but not all of them. Like by the time he was 18 months old, I think that's when we'd stopped doing it. So I don't know, I just did a lot of research, reading a lot of the history of it, and I know it's a controversial topic and it doesn't bother me what anybody else does, but we chose not to do them anymore. So our first 4 kids are vaccinated, our last 4 aren't. What do you think about mental illness, mental health? Is it lack of faith? What do you think about medical treatment for mental illness? What about natural treatment? That's a huge topic, and it's something that has hit home. I have several family members who have been on medication for depression or bipolar. I myself was actually, I was just told somebody this in the comments the other day, I was diagnosed as having an anxiety disorder, which seems almost comical now, but when I was 18 that happened. And I look back now and I think it seems kind of silly, because I was going through a really rough time at the time, and the hospital that's closest to us just started like a department for mental health in their hospital. So they were doing these free exams basically for people, and I was diagnosed with an anxiety disorder. And I clearly do not have an anxiety disorder, but I was having a rough time in my life then. And I just heard a psalm yesterday on, I don't remember what the guy was saying, but it's in the Bible, and him pouring out his heart about how distressed he was. Life was not good for this person. And I feel sad for people when having difficulties or depression or whatever is seen as a lack of faith, because I think we all have ups and downs in life. And I think, how do I even say this? This is such a big thing. I don't like to talk flippantly about things, but there's always the spiritual and the physical aspect of things. And this is something I talked with my mom a lot when she was having her cancer treatments and things, and I would try to encourage her to eat well, because a lot of the emotional and spiritual symptoms that she was having, I said, are due to physical problems, and that when you're under stress, it takes physical resources from your body to deal with stress. So even if it's an emotional stress, you're going to be using up lots of minerals and things like that. And when it happens over a long period of time, especially, your body becomes depleted, and it kind of is a vicious cycle then, that what started out as an emotional trauma or whatever, it can become like a lifelong situation, because your body is continually under stress, because it's never really been able to fully recover from whatever that initial trauma was. And it's just like for me needing progesterone, I started having a lot of the issues that I've had, with my weight and things like that, all started happening after my mom died, and it was a hugely stressful time in my life. And when I was reading about progesterone, that progesterone and cortisol both come from the same precursor hormone. And so when you're going through a lot of stress, a lot of that hormone is being funneled into making cortisol rather than progesterone. And that sets up a cycle then that, over time, I'm continually low on progesterone because my body just isn't able to recover. And now that I've been taking progesterone supplementation with the natural progesterone cream, it's helping me a lot. And I don't know if it's making me lose any weight, but it is getting rid of a lot of the fluid that I had collected in my neck and things like that. And so when it comes to mental illness, I guess, is that I think all of it does have an emotional or a spiritual aspect to it, but that doesn't mean there's not also the physical aspect of your body responding to whatever the stress is. And just like most things, I think that medical treatment for a mental illness, especially in a short-term way, is a positive thing. That just like if you broke a leg, crutches are really important to help you get around and to function. It's an acute problem that needs dealt with. If somebody's still using crutches 5 years later, maybe that is a sign that there's something else bigger that needs to be dealt with. And that's kind of how I view a lot of medication for different mental illnesses, is that it is probably very helpful in the short term. In the long term, I would be looking for figuring out how to replace whatever is depleted in your body so that you can actually heal rather than just, well, because how most medicines are is they aren't actually replenishing you. They're overriding your systems. So whatever your body's trying to do, it will force something to happen or to not happen, and it kind of is clashing with what your body's trying to accomplish. And I think in a long-term situation, that's probably going to lead to bigger problems. So this is how I would see it, is like, yes, if you need it in the short term, please, by all means, take it. But, look to the day as soon as possible to wean off of it. And during that time, be working toward figuring out what sort of minerals or herbs or food or whatever that would start replenishing your body so that the day would come when that wouldn't be necessary anymore, if that makes sense. But then the big picture is learning how to control your mind, to bring your thoughts captive. That's what it says, to bring your thoughts captive to Christ. And I think this is where, even with a lot of counseling, it feels like it's not that helpful, because it's not necessarily teaching a lot of times the skills that are necessary to deal with stress. And someone was asking me about how I deal with fear and anxiety. And for me, as I said, I was once diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, and it seems funny because you all think, which is true, I am a very calm, non-anxious person. And a lot of it is because I have learned to take control of my thoughts. That your thoughts tend to run down a track. So, you think one thought, that leads to the next thought, that leads to the next thought. And the more you reinforce that thinking pathway, the easier it is for your thoughts to just naturally go in that direction. And it takes an effort to stop yourself. This is something I have to talk to one of my sons about, because he has a tendency to go down that anxious thought pathway. And it takes effort to derail those thoughts as soon as possible, and to pave a new path, a new pathway for your thoughts to go on. And one of the things that's helpful for me is, if there's something that I'm really anxious about, I just play it out in my mind. It's kind of like when you hear a song and you hear a little piece of a song, and then it just gets stuck in your head and keeps going and going, and you can't get it out of your brain. But one of the ways to stop that is to listen to the entire song from beginning to end, and it like mentally satisfies that, and it's done, and you can let go of it. That's kind of how it is with me with fear or anxiety, or even when I feel really depressed about something, is that whatever it is I'm anxious about, I walk through it. And what I was sharing the other day with someone was that I used to feel really anxious about, what if something happened to Tom and I was left alone with all of the kids and everything. And not just that, but just not having him. That was a really stressful thought for me. So one day I walked through it. I faced that fear, and I imagined a policeman coming to the door and telling me that he'd gotten in a car accident and had died. And I thought to myself, when I close the door, what am I going to do? And I imagined what it would be like to plan the funeral and to deal with calling people, and you know, once that part was over, just how I was going to handle the kids and what we were going to do to support ourselves. And you know, I wasn't super detailed, but I faced that situation in my mind, and I was able to put it to rest. It stopped haunting me after that. It's like playing that song all the way through, and I didn't need to keep replaying that in my mind. And another example I shared was my niece was starting school at a new high school, and she was really anxious about her first day. And I asked her, what is it that keeps playing through your mind? It's like your worst case scenario. And the thing she finally says is, what if I trip and fall down in front of everyone in the hallway? And I said, okay, well, let's just go with it then. Imagine there you are laying on the floor, everyone's staring at you, and I said, what are you going to do next? And then she says, well, I guess I would do this. And I said, okay, then what are you going to do? And we kind of walked through the whole rest of the school day. And when you can do that, when you can play that song through, it puts it to rest. It doesn't make it that I want those bad things to happen, because I don't. But it doesn't have the power over me that it did before. And so I think with mental illness, a lot of it is learning how to do that, how to take control of your thoughts, but at the same time definitely acknowledging that there's a physical aspect to it, that any kind of stress, whether it's a physical or emotional stress, is going to take a physical toll on your body. And so dealing with replenishing all those depleted things is a very important part of having good mental health. And as I said, taking some sort of a medication or whatever in the short term, I think, is definitely a positive thing if it helps you to get to a place where you can actually do these things. It's like the crutches for the person with a broken leg. If they can't move, how are they ever going to, start putting weight on this bone and, doing their physical therapy? You have to have something that helps you be able to move and to continue functioning. And if that is still way down the road necessary, then that's a sign that you have missed, or I'm not going to say that you have, but to me that's just what I would think, that there's some big thing that isn't happening that probably needs to happen, which is that learning how to take control of your thoughts and to make new positive pathways of dealing with whatever is going on in your life, and the physical just healing of your body, not just overriding its systems with a medication, but actually healing it so that it functions normally. And for me, one of the biggest things in my own life, like when my mom died, and that was such a stressful time for me, my mom was next to Tom. She was my best friend. She was with me all the time. She was at my house every day. She helped me with the kids, and I just shared everything in my life with her, and losing her was a huge, horrible thing for me. And I just, when I would start getting overwhelmed with my feelings of sadness or whatever, I just acknowledged it. Like I literally acknowledged. I'd just be, folding laundry or whatever, and I would just start thinking, I am really sad. And I would actually say it in my mind, I am really sad right now. And just acknowledging it and allowing myself to have that feeling helped it pass so much more quickly than trying to ignore it. But I also didn't wallow in it. I didn't have to, make a big thing out of it. I would just say to myself, boy, I'm really sad. And then I would kind of move on. And it really helped me, I think, to get through it a lot faster than some of the other people in my family, because I didn't want to stay in that sad place forever. And that's one of the things I always talk to my kids about, is nothing lasts forever. How we're feeling at this moment isn't how it's going to be for all time.
Mommy.
Did you find me again? And even in the middle of the most horrible thing, or those depressing thoughts or whatever, if you can just say to yourself, what I'm feeling at this moment isn't going to be how it is forever, it's a step in making that new pathway of saying, I don't have to go down that same track of feeling worthless, or feeling overwhelmed, or feeling like I haven't accomplished what I wanted to accomplish, or whatever it is that gets you down. Just acknowledging that I'm having this feeling, and it's going to be here as long as it's going to be here, and then it's going to move on. It makes it so much easier, I guess, to deal with. I don't know if any of that's helpful or not, but I think a lot of what we go through in life is, well, not a lot, everything that we go through is God training us to be the person He wants us to be. And your immune system only gets stronger when it's challenged. So if you grow up in a bubble with no germs or anything, you're going to be an actually really weak person. And that's the same thing in a spiritual sense, that going through hard times and difficult things is the times that you grow the most. And it's not a lack of faith to have difficulties. It's God's way of growing you and challenging you to become the person He wants you to be. And through those things too, when you learn how to deal with it, that makes you capable of helping the next person that comes along. Just like with me and my low progesterone. If I hadn't had those miscarriages and been trying to figure out what to do, I would not have come across this information. I would not have learned this thing. And my miscarriages were not a lack of faith. It's just something that God used in my life to teach me something. And now I've been able to share with all of you. And I can't tell you how many people have told me that after they watched my video, they started using progesterone cream, and now they're pregnant after 2 or 3 or 5 years of not being able to get pregnant. And it makes me so happy that my painful experience has turned into something that I can use to help other people. So no, I don't think that mental illness is a lack of faith. I think that it's just a normal part of life that has many aspects that need to be dealt with. And in some ways you could see it as a positive experience, that you're learning and growing and becoming the person that God wants you to be through that experience. So, okay, I'm going to stop talking now. That's the end of these questions. Yes. So I really am going to go now, and we'll be having the family tree topic another time and the birth and pregnancy questions another time. But thank you guys for coming over today and spending all this long time with me, and I'll talk to you again soon.